The Evergreen Media Network Studio, powered by Scott Tree Services.
Hi, welcome to Silver Linings. I'm your host, Janean Barrows, and sometimes co-host like I am today. It's going to be a chit-chat kind of conversation with Gary Rooney, who's joining me today in the studio. We would like to take today's show and have a conversation about the legal process. As Gary said, Legal Process 101. So on that note, good morning, Gary. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
Well, now you and I hold very vastly different roles. So today you really are holding the bag of knowledge for us. And so let's kind of delve into it. I know you have a very long history of a multitude of different types of law that you have spent some time in honing in on to build your backdrop. And so today we're going to do like a little bit of a vast look. Generally speaking, people begin their conversations about, I'm going to go see an attorney. I might need to go see an attorney. I'm fearful to go see an attorney. I think I need to do it, but I'm not sure if I need an attorney for this or that. So first and foremost, what is the difference between a consultation and an opinion? Because most of the time people will call you and say, hey, I think I need some services. Can I get a consultation? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Think about going to the doctor, right? You have a pain in your stomach, you're concerned about it, or actually your spouse might be concerned about it, and they tell you go get it checked out. All right, so you go and you have a medical consultation, and then from there you have a diagnosis or an opinion on what's going on and what you should do about it. Now, the great part about that is if you catch it early, or if you go for a regular, testing, right? And you catch things early. They're small and easy to fix. Same thing with legal. We see things that people could solve for pennies on the dollar if they come in early before they become big issues. And a lot of times they are afraid of having the consultation, so they put it off, and then it becomes a bigger and bigger issue, which is more costly. So depending on that, so earlier is better. Consultations, you're paying for someone's time, so you shouldn't be afraid to pay for it, and have a good conversation with whatever lawyer you choose, and understand the whys of them reaching their opinion. And it's just a dialogue.
Now you said a word there, opinion.
Right.
One of the things that I hear about, I don't want to go do a consultation, even if they overcome the idea that they're paying for a service. I don't want to do the consultation because I'm not really ready to hire them. I don't know how many hours are going to be needed. I don't have a large chunk of money, and I'm not even sure if what I'm doing is right or is actually going to be something I need to be concerned about. And so you and I were talking before the show about understanding that you could also approach an attorney and say, I want to pay you for your opinion. I want to go over these things. I'm not going to hire you for the service if I need it. Tell us about that. What does that mean?
Right. So an attorney's value is their time. So you're going to pay someone to evaluate your situation, pay them for their time. Now, there are some consultations where there is no consultation fee, typically a personal injury case, and there's reasons for that. If you see the billboards, no consultation fee, no recovery, no fee, there's a financial reason for that because there's bigger recoveries. But the average person with a neighbor dispute or a family dispute or a will, they want to know what's going on and be evaluated. Someone's got to take time out of their day, listen to that problem. So there's typically some sort of consultation fee associated with that. And it also usually gets built into the bigger price if they retain. So it's not lost money. Now, if you're not sure you want to retain a lawyer, that's fine. You simply say, look, I'm not ready to retain a lawyer, but tell me what it would cost if I do retain you after our consultation. So that happens quite frequently where we say, look, your problem is X. I would anticipate Y amount of hours to get it done. And this is the hourly rate, and multiply it out and sort of get a feel for a range of what that problem might cost to resolve. For instance, wills are very easy to estimate. We've done thousands, so you know what a will costs. Trust might be a little more complicated because they have a lot of family members, or they have a sick family member or someone on disability.
Assets or things
right.
like that.
So you say, well, it's going to be a little bit more, and we try to figure that out. Litigation, which we talked about, is an unknown because you're fighting another side. How hard is the other side going to fight? How many hours are they going to make this case go on?
You got to kind of guesstimate preemptively of what the other team may bring to you.
Well, you
Or
discuss
to the
it,
table, I should say.
and you realize you won't know until the battle's begun. Right? So,
Part of it is making the decision to actually get into the battle.
right.
All right. So they can come for a consultation or even ask for a true opinion and just kind of remove the idea of permanent hire for the problem, but rather understanding that there aren't solutions and what those solutions may or may not cost.
Right.
So I like that idea because sometimes we worry about getting involved in exposing all of our feelings, thoughts, and evidence and not even sure if that's the individual we want to work with. So I love that because that gives them, somebody who's going to give them an unbiased opinion. This isn't somebody who's going to be maneuvered or manipulated in the information by what they may or may not be getting down the road with the job. So I like that the average individual can go in and do that. I don't think people understand that.
Yeah, just because you have a consultation with a lawyer, I say the average consultation, maybe $300, $400, $500, whatever the going rate is, you shouldn't feel that you are committed to that professional. You shouldn't. You have to be comfortable. It should be the same with your doctor, your dentist, your CPA. You can go in for a consultation, but if you're not getting a good feel that you can talk and be understood and listened to, they're paying attention to that's just not the right person for you. We all have that.
Yeah,
We all
I
have
hear it all the time with my clients with their physicians. Well,
Right.
they're with the group, and I it's okay. I'll work it. I only see them twice a year,
Right.
so I see and hear that often in a little bit of a different field,
Right.
but still. So I think the human nature is to do that.
So having a person that will take the time to explain to you and not just tell you, we hear that all the time. That's part of it.
That kind of leads us into another part of this, and that is understanding there are different types of courts, right? And so we have different types of judges and different types of court structures that are designed to hear specific styles or types of cases, right?
Sure.
The general public, we hear words all the time. Oh, it's a civil court law. It's a criminal law. It's a family issue. It's, and what does that mean to us? We don't know outside of a placard, outside of a courtroom door. Can
Sure.
you kind of add some clarity for us?
Sure. So if you had to break down, the types of cases in general terms, there's two main categories, criminal and civil. So criminal is when the government, the state of Florida or the federal government, prosecutes you for breaking the law.
Okay.
Right? It could be, your car, it could be for battery, it could be whatever it is. You broke the law, the government's prosecuting you. That's criminal. You get a criminal attorney and you're fighting the government. It's jail or fines.
All right.
The other side is civil. You're fighting over money or some sort of other relief that's not criminal. And both sides have private attorneys. The government doesn't get involved in that typically. So I practice primarily civil law. Don't deal with criminals. We have criminal attorneys in our law firm, but and civil is then broken down. And the first way is based on the category. So you have maybe wills and probates go to a particular judge, and guardianships, which we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
You have another category for civil disputes. That could be car accidents. That could be people fighting over land. That could be neighborhood disputes. It could be things of a civil matter.
Family issues.
Families, then another sort of subcategory, right? There's a family law judge that handles dissolution of
those
marriages and child support and paternity actions. And so those are your breakdowns. But that's all under the civil
All
umbrella.
under that. Okay.
Everyone typically gets their own private attorneys. You're not required to, but obviously you're going before a judge and you're trying to get your information in. There are rules to get things in.
Now hold that thought because I don't want you to go too deep into that because I do want to talk further about that. So I just slow your roll on that one.
All right. So then those categories, obviously, and then when you fight over money, the court has different levels of money you're fighting over. So anything less than $8,000 right now is what we call small claims.
Okay. And I've heard that term before.
And that's designed for people to handle it themselves, really, without
Right.
lawyers. The rules are very relaxed. Getting stuff in is sort of like people's court,
All right.
You can
People's
go
Court's
in,
a
they
great
go in,
example.
they argue, right. And then the next level up from there is between $8,000 and $50,000, where it's called county court jurisdiction. Again, you're fighting over money. It could be, ran into my car, but it's less than $50,000, and the county court judges handle that. Then anything above $50,000 is, in a separate level called circuit court. So
Circuit
it's all
court.
civil, but just different people hearing it. So
All right. Wow, that's pretty important. I knew as a general individual without any legal background, when I think of civil, I think of, oh, somebody owes me less than $500 and hasn't paid me back, and I need to go to civil court because that's who's going to handle it.
Civil is non-criminal, and there's nothing civil about it. People are fighting, fighting quite.
I like that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not if you're in civil court. Okay,
Right.
I apologize. But that's a great way to think about it. Listen, I know we have a lot more to talk about. We only have 24 minutes on our show, but I would love to take a segue into our commercial break and then come back and jump into a topic that you started to open up, okay? So, all right, on that note, we're going to take a small break. Thank you.
At Sunshine Furniture, our 35,000 square foot showroom is filled with the largest selection of in-stock coastal furniture on the Treasure Coast. Now during our summer sale, you can save 10 to 50% store-wide on furniture in the latest styles and colors from Tommy Bahama, Lexington, Hooker, Riverside, Universal, Four Seasons, Braxton Color, Capri, and more. Sofas, love seats, dining sets, bedroom groups, all in stock for immediate delivery. We're also the outdoor furniture experts and have hundreds of styles of any patio furniture you need, including a gallery of Berlin Garden, Hollywood, and Kingsley Bait. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Come in now for our store-wide summer sale, including all pictures, lamps, and accessories half price. Don't forget to visit our outlet and sales store directly across the street and visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Sunshine Furniture.
Hey, you! Host your very own show every week at Evergreen Media Network in Vero Beach. Go live to YouTube and Facebook with up to 4 people and your very own producer. Be heard on more than 15 podcast platforms and local radio. All you have to do is show up and talk. Your guests can join from anywhere in the world. It's easy to get started with the largest podcast studio on the Treasure Coast. Contact Evergreen Media to tour the studio.
We are always grateful for our commercial sponsors, but I would be remiss if I did not do a shout out to our Silver Lining sponsors. So I'm always grateful to the financial team over at Conway Financial Planning and to the legal team over at Rooney. Without them, we would not be able to promote and produce Silver Linings. So we're always grateful for them. Before we went to break, Gary and I were conversing in reference to the types of law, the types of criminal justice systems in our court structures, and what type of judges sit before the attorneys and the individuals that come to law, and some basic definitions of what those are. You had begun, and I asked you to hold off on prior to break, going into some explanation about the different types of attorneys and what the different types handle and who does what in reference to the types of legal processes being brought before the judges. So you were discussing about the reality is who is representing you, what are their capabilities, and why you would want to go with an attorney versus trying to be your own mouthpiece, and what they bring to the table. So please go ahead and expound on that a little bit more.
Sure. So based on our conversation earlier, and I always make an analogy back to the medical, right?
Mm-hmm. They tend to go hand in hand.
Right. I can remove a splinter from my hand, but I probably shouldn't give myself stitches, right? And I won't have antibiotics. I won't know how to do it properly, and I won't clean it. It's outside my wheelhouse. Is it possible? Sure. Not a very good choice. If you're at the point where you have a legal issue, you're going to want to consultate with a lawyer and then have an open discussion whether something you can handle yourself or not. So, small claims court. You're battling someone who dinged your car for less than $8,000. Sure. Go in, battle it out yourself. Don't spend the money on a lawyer over that.
So often those kind of things end up in front of mediation, right?
Well, it's a small claims court. So mediation is a what we call alternative dispute resolution process. And a big word for, we're trying to settle cases. All right. So it used to be every case would get to a judge or a jury and an answer would be given, and there you go. So along the way, to unclog the system, they came up with other ways to get cases settled. Okay. Try to settle, talk about it, try to resolve it on your own between the two parties, the risk. So there's no clear winner or loser. Everyone can meet in the middle. So if I'm suing you for $5,000 and you say, that's not real, I'll give you $2,500. And I say, well, let's settle at $3,000. And we settled the case. All right, that's negotiation.
Okay.
And that's what mediation is.
And that happens at all kinds of different cases, right?
Every
Not
civil
just
case,
civil,
almost
but
every
additional.
civil case goes through mediation at least once.
Okay.
Because it works.
All right.
Because people realize there's risk involved. There's human beings making these decisions. Whether it's a judge or a jury, these are human beings and they can make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's why we have appellate court. So do you want to risk that and spend all this money for this outcome, or do you want to, negotiate a little bit and take a little bit less or give a little bit more and have a certainty of outcome?
Meeting in the middle of the road.
Right. And it's very successful, works a lot. And good mediations, both parties come out not super happy, but happy that it got resolved, and so that's a good mediated result.
I didn't mean to derail you. I apologize.
No, that's okay. So we were talking about, going to court and needing a lawyer. So if you are fighting over a sizable amount or something important, then yes, you should, just like you would want a surgeon to operate on your kidney, right? You wouldn't want me to do it.
All right.
Right? Same thing. So
I wouldn't hire my
but,
ENT to do that. No.
Right. So once you have your evaluation, you figure out what the issue is. And then part of that's cost, right? So if you're fighting over,
It's a big part for many people.
So people always ask me, at what point do I need a lawyer? How much is that issue before I file a lawsuit? So I say, before the pandemic, I would tell people $30,000 maybe is a number. Less than that, you're spending so much on a lawyer that your
so that
your
it's
recovery,
actually cost effective,
your
for
return
their
on investment, right? Exactly. Now we've had inflation, so everything's up 30%. So maybe that number's closer to 45.
Okay.
I don't recommend people, because you're going to start spending money.
And
just because you win doesn't mean you get your lawyer's fees back. That's a very big thing. Everyone thinks, if I win, I get my attorney's fees back.
They think it's automatically, but you actually have to submit that and apply to the court for those fees, right?
You either have to have a particular statute or law that allows for the recovery of attorney's fees to the prevailing party, or have a contract that says the prevailing party gets fees. Okay. If it's just, I sue you because you hit my car, I don't get attorney's fees, even if I win.
Even if you yourself are an attorney?
So that's a sizable thing. If you're not going to recover your attorney's fees, all you spend $10,000 more just to get 15. No, you wouldn't. It's a risk.
Wouldn't make sense.
So, but there are certain cases that have attorney's fees as part of the recovery.
Okay.
If someone steals something from you and you sue them civilly, there's some avenues that way.
We've defined that there's a great value in going to the individual who has the knowledge. Now, I understand that there are a variety of attorneys that specialize in all kinds of different caseloads, right? But generally speaking, in the real world, we tend to refer to them as litigators versus traditional tort attorneys. So can you tell us the difference between an attorney who goes to court and battles in front of a judge or in front of a jury versus an attorney who maybe handles wills and trusts directly in their day-to-day?
Right. So we're all attorneys.
Yeah.
One that goes to court, we refer to them as a litigator. They litigate the case. They fight in court. And they have the experience of how to get evidence into the court system. And that's a very specialized set of rules.
Yes.
What is reliable, what is hearsay, what is authentic, and how to cross-examine witnesses and how to get things in. There's a very complicated way to get evidence in. You can't do it without a lawyer unless you're in that small claims division where the rules are relaxed. So a lawyer who doesn't do that on a regular basis typically doesn't just run to court because somebody walked through their door who wants to litigate. They will refer it over to someone else who litigates. So what we might call a person who just, let's say, drafts contracts or just does only real estate closings, they're what we might call a transactional attorney. They're worried about transactions. They're not going to go to court.
Okay.
They're good lawyers. They may have someone else in their firm that goes to court for them, but that particular person typically focuses on non-court related matters because it's hard to keep your foot in both worlds.
I imagine so.
Right.
You have a soft side on one side, and then you kind of have to be a little bit more of a bulldog on the other. I'm nothing against bulldogs. I think they're sweet and cuddly, but you know what I'm saying. You have different roles and intentions when you're taking on those positions.
Well, sure, because when you're in court, it's adversarial. It's clearly I'm trying to fight for an outcome and the other side's fighting for an outcome, there's no peaceful process there. While you try to reach a solution, you're constantly preparing to win, and that's adversarial. And that's a lot of preparation, a lot of ego clash, and a lot of fighting, and
And of course, we know that there is one winner when we're having a battle. So, yes, and I imagine wanting to be the winner.
Sure.
So today, the reason we got together was to kind of shed some light on those basic information and definitions. They're very commonplace in your conversations with your clients and your peers and the individuals that you work with in our court systems. But for the general public, I know we struggle with understanding that. We have the input of all the 80s television shows. Yeah. So we all think that we know what's going on. Lockhart changed the world. And I think that when you sit down like today and you give some insight into understanding what is civil, what is family, are they multiple different attorneys? Can it be one type of attorney that works with that? And knowing that there are the different structures in the court and understanding what a criminal court is versus a civil. Go ahead.
A very good point you made is a lot of the information the public gets is from TV.
Yes.
And the most, probably the most inaccurate thing I see is people expect a quick outcome. Because on TV, it's done in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, even criminal cases are done. They go to court. I used to cringe at these legal shows where the client would walk in, and by that afternoon, they'd have a hearing. Doesn't happen. It's weeks and months.
Okay, so it's not Suits in the real world.
No, it's drawn out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That drove me crazy. There's no judge sitting around waiting for someone to walk into your office, and then you have a hearing that afternoon. They're backed up.
They're backed up. And I know in our county we are backed up. And of course, if there's changes or judges leave or new ones are coming in, you get completely off and derailed. And sometimes it takes months to get in front of a court.
Well, you got to coordinate with the judge's calendar, the other opposing's calendar, the witnesses. You have to figure out how to get everyone
corralling
there.
Squirrels.
And everyone's got due process to not be surprised. Or, so it takes a lot longer than people expect. And that frustrates people. One of the conversations we have is an expectation of how long it's going to take. Money and time, right?
The investment, money, that's why it's so important to get a good quote and a perspective from a legal team that has some insight into how long and what's involved and how many things will need to be filed and the cost of all of those to the individual and that payout plan. So it's always good to educate yourself preemptively. So what I've really learned today is to plan. Make that initial investment, get that consultation, make a decision from there. And you may find that in consultation you don't really have to go to court. Maybe this is something that can be solved very easily through letters, possibly even. Sometimes that they may need to go to court, but they may need a specialized perspective or specialized attorney for that particular need. And others, they might find that simply they're going to end up in front of mediation so that they can make those decisions, choices, get it filed with the court, and be able to move forward past that hiccup or bump in the road in their lives. So ultimately, people need to call out and get those consultations. And there's nothing wrong with getting more than one. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so much like in a doctor, we want to have a good perspective.
Make sure you understand why the opinion is what it is and ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
But don't wait and don't go on because that just makes the problem worse.
I know, and I've heard that from other individuals because time matters in the law, and sometimes just because the action or the incident occurred doesn't mean that it was addressed within a time frame that is recognized as appropriate.
Right.
So yes, time matters. The attorney matters, knowledge matters. So I encourage you, if you or your family or your loved ones are having issues or concerns that maybe they think they need to bring in front of attorney, reach out to teams like over at Rooney and Rooney, Gary and his team, ask for a consultation, ask maybe they need to give you an opinion without any future bias to it. They'll be glad to help you. But the best thing you can do is educate yourself. Educate yourself before you end up in front of a judge. Educate yourself before you end up at the mediation table. It only costs a little bit to be prepared. And like Gary said, if it was your body, you definitely would get a couple consultations for that. On that note, Gary, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it greatly. We will see you next week. Have a wonderful day.